Hey guys, hang on a second. Give me a sec. I just want to make sure everything is looking good. See if I'm up here, and I am. Awesome. My head's not over on the side. All right, there we go. Um, all right, let's see. I am live, and I see myself. So I'm getting started a little late, and then I had to push this up a day. My aunt passed away, so I have a funeral that I'm attending tomorrow. So that's why I'm doing this today. And then I had a little bit of technical difficulties with the internet and everything. So I was able to get everything up and running. Hang on a second. I just want to make sure I see everything again. Give me 1 second. Sorry. Go back to live. There we go. Hopefully I'll edit this out. Not sure yet. But anyway, I just wanted to welcome you again to the 5 Minute Fridays. In this particular case, it's 5 Minute Thursday today, just due to a funeral that I'm attending tomorrow. So I'll move this out of here. I'll go ahead and I'll share the PowerPoint. I think you guys can see that. Awesome. Yep. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So once again, I just want to say thanks for attending this. It truly means the world to me. And today we're going to talk about how to buy a note with a partial. We'll just keep it simple, keep it smart. If you're not using partials within your business, you should really look at them. You'll get a better understanding of how they work. You can just really get in at a low barrier to entry. I mean, if you had $5,000 and you could buy, and if somebody needed, 5 grand selling a partial with a note that they own, you can go and get in at a low barrier to entry as opposed to buying them 20, 30, 50, $80,000. So, in any event, I'll go ahead and get into this. So, today's topic is how to buy a note with a partial. Let's keep it simple, keep it smart. Excuse me. I like to start off by saying I am not a financial planner or a CPA or an attorney. This video is for educational purposes only. And oh, hang on a second. I just want to make sure I see everything. Make sure that the audio. Okay. I'm not a CPA, financial planner, or attorney. This video is for educational purposes only. Please consult a qualified professional for advice. And I also like to say, I should probably put this in here, that any advice that I give or other people give regarding investing, any type of thing, right? You should really consult a financial planner, a CPA, or attorney. That way, they can help structure it for you. This is just what I'm doing in my business, so yeah, I've been doing this for a very long time. And once again, just please always consult somebody that's more knowledgeable than you. So, let's go ahead and just talk about what is a partial note purchase. It's like I was saying earlier, it's a lower cost to entry. It's great. You can, if you have $5,000 to $20,000, you can get in at a low barrier to entry. The other thing, it's less risk. It's backed by the full note and the property. You actually do a full assignment um, of, of, uh, of, of mortgage, and they'll sign it over doing a longe. And there's a few other documents that you need in order to do a partial note. But if you're not familiar with it, an attorney that does the notes that he or she would be able to help you with this. So it's like I was saying, it's less risk buying a partial note because there's still the seller still has the chunk of that note, so there's still an interest in this note. The other thing is you can structure payments in terms that match your goals. And so why do we use a partial? You buy the rights to receive a portion of the future payment. You're not buying the full note, just part of the payment stream. And after your term ends, the remaining payments go back to the original seller. I incorporate partials in my business a lot. I buy them a lot, and um, and if you are new to the notes, I would recommend a good performing partial. So that way, like I was saying initially, low risk, and then especially if it meets your investment to value. Typically, what I like to see, last week I talked about 70%. It's less than 70% investment to value. So, if you had there was $100,000 note or $100,000 property, and if you bought the note or a partial for 60,000, right? So your investment to value is 60%. So in case something were to happen, there's enough room in there to where you could foreclose on the property and take that back. But with these notes, right? So you have the full assignment, you have the allonge. So if something were to happen, if this note did go sideways, in my contracts I have it where, the seller they can either buy me out at minus however many payments were made, or we can work with each other to move forward with the foreclosure. In case you don't know, my end goal is not to foreclose on the property. I like to keep them in there. I'll do anything I can to help them modify that loan to keep them in there. But any event, I kind of got sidetracked with this. So after your term ends, the remaining payments go back to the original seller. So here's an example, $50,000 note. So say you have a note that has a $50,000 unpaid balance with 6% interest with 180 months remaining. Your monthly payment, so if you take this and you punch this into a financial calculator, your monthly payment would be $421.93. So this doesn't include servicing. This in my example has the gross and also the net. So what you do is you buy the next 60 payments, 5 years on this $50,000 note. You're buying this you're going to be buying $18,000, and over the next 5 years you're going to be receiving $421.93. So, and then here's the cool thing after these partials. So after the 60th payment, the remaining balance returns back to the seller. And I have an example with an Excel spreadsheet that I'll just kind of like walk through a little bit. So what's your yield on this? So if you paid $18,000, you collect $421.93 for 60 months. The total you'll receive is $25,315.80. Your gross yield is going to be 33%, sorry. Your net yield is going to be 11.06% annual. Both of these are annually. So, and I did another 5-Minute Friday on yield versus ROI. You really need to you can't use ROI to look at yield. They are not the same animal. So these servicing costs, you always have to account for servicing costs. Somebody has to pay them. Either you as the bank, you're going to be paying servicing costs, or the borrower is going to be paying servicing costs. Always, so whenever you buy these notes, always ask that question, and then always verify that question, that answer that they give you by reading the note. A lot of people do not go through the mortgage, and they do not go through the promissory note. Please just take the time to do that, and then look at all the assignment of mortgages and things like that, or the assignment of beneficial interest if you're buying like a contract for deed. Just always make sure you have a start when it originated to when you're going to buy it, so that way the chain's good. And like I was saying, always verify if the seller tells you that the borrower's paying servicing costs. That's fine. Then you'll be getting 14.33% annually on your money. But if they tell you, oh yeah, the borrower is paying the servicing costs, but you look and you read the promissory note and you see that they're not, it's coming out of your pocket. They may be using another servicer where they're only paying $18. You may want to switch it over to somebody else like Madison Management or FCI, where their servicing right now is $30. So you have to account for that. So, and that's what I did on this one. I just accounted for a $30 servicing fee, and that's how I came up with 11.06. And then, like I said there in my note, please always read the promissory note to determine who pays the servicing cost. So, and then with these partials, you're going to have what's known as an A schedule, a B schedule, and a C schedule. So an A schedule, it tracks the original loan, 100% of the borrower's payment over time, 180 payments, rough that principal and interest, $421.93. The Schedule B is your partial. That's your That's your amortization schedule. And there's two different ways to calculate this: yield rate, note rate, and also yield rate. And I have an example here on that. And it's like I said, it shows your payments you receive as a partial buyer. 1 to 60, 421.93, and then Schedule C. That's the remaining payments. This actually lists out the future payments that go back to the seller after the partial ends. And hang on a second, let me see if I can pull this up here. Can you guys see that? See if that pops up here. Yep. All right. I'm looking to see if there's any questions either. I don't see anything. Well, give me a second. I just accidentally clicked off of that, and I didn't mean to do that. Okay. So this example here is actually showing, I have it broken down like Schedule A, Schedule B, and then I have Schedule B at the note rate versus Schedule B at the yield rate, and you'll see like the different returns. And I'll just walk through them real quick. This may be a longer 5-minute-ish Fridays than what I initially thought. But if we're looking at this $50,000 note, 180 months, 6%. So this is just like your amortization schedule right here, right? This is a typical amortization schedule. This is what the borrower is concerned about. So, 180 months go by and they're down to 0, right? So it says over here, it says 182, but it's not, right? Because I have, headers and on this. So, like I said, it's a typical borrower schedule that they see. And then you have the Schedule B. So right now I'm just going to simply talk about the note rate. And then you have the Schedule C. So this is the Schedule B. This is your schedule that you bought this note for $18,000. The balance is, I'm sorry, yeah, the note that you're buying is $21,842, but it's at the note rate, right? So this balance, it's chipping away. So like, for example, say, 2 years go by and this borrower wants to pay you off. So you bought 60 payments. 2 years into it, they come back and they say, hey, we came into a windfall of money. We want to go ahead and pay you off. So what this shows you is right here is on their schedule, they owe $45,627.50. But your payment, because if you're buying this at the note rate, they'll owe you $31,758. So, and that's the so that's their payoff that they'll have to pay you, right? Now you can also do the Schedule B at the yield rate, and you see it's a it's a lower payment. And so now what this one is this one's actually broken up at your yield rate of 14.33% over 180 months. So if you now instead of doing the note rate, we're concerned about the yield rate. If you're selling this at the yield rate, and I'll talk about the differences here real quick. So if this comes back, the seller says, hey, I came into a windfall of money, I want to pay you off. So their payoff is going to be $45,000. Your payoff is going to be $12,287 because it's calculated at a much steeper yield. So now with the note rate versus the yield rate, typically whenever I buy the partials, I'm always calculating them at the note rate, just because I'm always trying to give the seller the most bang for the buck. Now, if I was originating this loan, and if I was selling it, I would be selling it at the yield rate, right? So I'm trying to think what else that. Oh, wait a minute. And then the other thing I want to show you here is, so for example, so if they didn't say you bought this and the borrower just goes, they've just been paying on this for the last 5 years, right? So after 60 months, their balance is going to be $38,004. You'll see that it's $38,004, $38,004, $38,004, regardless of whether it's at the note rate or at the yield rate. Now, the numbers are just a little off just because of the way Excel calculates everything. But ultimately, it ultimately comes down to like $38,004 and like 44 cents. So, and then after this, So they pay you off. It reverts. You do an assignment back to the seller. You do the allonge back to the seller, and then you go ahead and execute all this. It'll be held in escrow. So when it hits the 60th month, the 61st payment actually reverts back to the seller, and they still have an outstanding balance of $37,772. And the cool thing with these partials, say a couple months get going here, and the seller's like, they reach back out to you and they say, for me, hey Larry, I need, I $5,000. I need something that I need to fix my transmission in my car. Would you be interested in buying $5,000 worth of payments? Well, because I still have all these months left on this loan, I can 100% do $5,000, $10,000, or even $15,000, right? So that's the beautiful part of these partials. You can just buy a slice of the pie, or you can actually purchase the entire pie. And I don't know if there are any questions. I don't see anything. So with that, I am going to go back to the PowerPoint. Hopefully that was, I know that's a little high level. And if you have any questions about that, please feel free to reach out to me, or just watch this video over again. And hopefully, you'll be able to pick it up on, running through these numbers. And like I said, if you have any questions, please always feel free to reach out to me. So, key benefits of buying a partial: you earn passive income without owning the full note. Easy entry for new note investors. Payments are secured by real estate. Flexible terms, you can negotiate directly. And so, just to recap, really just think of it as renting the cash flow from a note for a short period of time. Lower buy-in, stronger returns, less risk. Your lower investment to value on these notes. That's why I love these partials. Great for building wealth with small, smart steps. And I think, yeah, that's all. I don't know if there are any questions regarding this. If you do, you can drop them in the chat, or you can just drop them in the feed here. I'm not seeing anything. And then, as always, if you do have any questions, just please feel free to shoot me an email, larry@ljhinvestments.com, or you can text me 513-301-1468, or you can schedule a 30-minute call with me, talkwithlarryhoffman.com. Here, let me move back over to this guy. So I'll move this over here. So yeah, if you have any questions, just please feel free. You can schedule a time, talkwithlarryhoffman.com, and sometimes the calls, they go 15 minutes, sometimes they go 45 minutes or an hour. I'm here to help you. If you have any questions, please feel free to schedule a time there. All right, guys, I do not see any questions.